Hello everyone, I am Bibhuti Kumar Jha, a postdoctoral researcher at Arish Nainital. So today I am going to talk about the signature of tilt quenching from the observation of tilted bipolar magnetic region of the sun. So let's start with the what is BMRs. So what are bipolar magnetic regions? So bipolar magnetic regions, abbreviated as BMRs, are the region of a strong and concentrated magnetic field on the surface of the sun. And as you can see inside these rectangles, and if you see the two color represent the oppositely directed magnetic field lines. Now, there is something interesting about the BMRs is that, uh, like if you join the centroid of the opposite polarity, you see that the line joining them is actually tilted with respect to east-west line, and it is called the tilt angle of the BMRs, and it is defined like tan gamma equal to del theta upon del phi cos theta, where theta is the latitude of these BMRs, latitude of these polarities, and delta phi is the longitude of these, and theta represents the uh, latitude of this BMR. So now in 1919, Hale has discovered that the tilt of BMRs actually depend on the latitude of the appearance of the BMR, and it is actually increases with the latitude, and this is popularly known as the Joyce law. So now first question that comes to our mind is that how these BMRs are formed and why there is actually any tilt in this BMR. So to understand that, we have to first understand that how these BMRs are formed. So BMRs are actually formed when the flux tube rises from the bottom of the convection zone and pokes out of the photospheric surface. You see the two oppositely polarity patches, and they are collectively called the BMRs. Now, during the rise of the flux tube, due to the Coriolis force, since the sun is rotating, it will have the effect of Coriolis force, and due to the Coriolis force, this bipolar region will get twisted. Now, since because why they will get twisted in opposite direction, because at the loop apex the plasma motion will be in the two opposite direction, and two opposite direction motion will have the opposite effect, and that will give rise to the twist in the BMR, and this twist is appearing as the tilt as we see at the surface of the sun. Now we can expect that the tilt of the BMR will depend on the rise of the flux tube, rise time of the flux tube. Why? Because that will tell about the how much time Coriolis force is getting to twist this flux tube, and you can see the rise time will depend on the strength of magnetic field in it, because that will dictate the buoyancy ultimately. So we can expect that the tilt of the BMR will depend on the strength of magnetic field in it. So now the next question is that, like, what is tilt quenching? But before we go to into the tilt quenching, let's try to briefly let me briefly mention about the work by Fan et al., where she had shown that based on her simulation, how the tilt depend on the strength of magnetic field and the flux in it. So now let's look at what is tilt quenching. So tilt quenching, we have already seen that the gamma equal to gamma naught sine theta is the popular Joyce law. We have added delta term here, which will tell about the scatter in the Joyce law, because we know that the Joyce law is a very statistical law, and it will have the large scatter. And another term that we have added is the 1 plus b upon v saturation to the power n, where this so which will try to quench the tilt, so reduce the tilt. So hence we can see that once the b increases one some saturation limit, we will see the reduction of tilt, and it is actually known as the tilt quenching. Now, what is the tilt quenching's role in the understanding of solar dynamo models? So particularly if you look at the Babcock-Leighton type mechanism, we can see that tilt has a very we know that the tilt has a very significant role in the understanding of the uh, in the role in the reversal of a polar field. So what happened is that due to the tilt in the BMR, there will be some residual flux, diffused flux, and that will be carried to the poles by the meridional circulation, and which will be responsible for the reversal of the polarity, as you can see in this video. Now, two BMR that are appearing at the two different latitude will have the different tilt and will have the different impact on the polarity reversal. As you can see, the BMR which are appearing at higher latitude will have the higher tilt and will have the higher impact on the uh, reversal of poloidal field. So now this type of tilt quenching mechanism has been routinely used in the solar dynamo models, particularly in the Babcock-Leighton type model. And recently, Lambrelli, Sarbanov, Karak, and Message has used this similar tilt quenching mechanism in their models and has been able to produce the different observed feature in the solar activity cycle. So here, our aim is to look for the is there any observational evidence of this tilt quenching. So to look at the observational evidence, first thing we need is the data, and fortunately we have data from SOMDI and STO-HMI, which provide the continuous magnetogram with extremely high cadence and good high resolution. So we have used the data from the HMI and MDI for our purpose. So now how we have detected the BMR? So first we have taken the BMR, we have corrected it for the projection effect, then we have identified the intense magnetic region, then applied the flux balance condition to identify the bipolar regions, and then finally we have applied the small kernel Gaussian smoothing to reduce a spatial noise a bit, and then finally we have calculated the centroid latitude, longitude, maximum magnetic field, and the total unsigned flux in the BMRs. And this method is not completely developed by us, and this is inspired by the method by Stanflo and Kosovicev in 2012. So now let's come to the what we get. So when we have plotted the gamma naught, that is the amplitude of the Joyce law. So instead of tilt, what we have done is that tilt has an impact of latitude as well. So to remove the latitudinal effect, we have plotted the gamma naught with respect to the Bmax. We have taken the 500-degree bin, 500 Gauss bin in the Bmax and calculated the gamma naught in that particular bin, and then plotted with respect to Bmax. As you can see that here, it is initially increasing, and as we approach towards the higher magnetic field value around 2 kilogauss, it started decreasing, even though we have only 3 data points, but we still see the indication of tilt quenching in the data. Now, if you want to fit the model in it, we don't have much data points to fit the model. So what we have done is that we approach to the Gaussian, like a Bayesian approach. We have applied the Bayesian approach, and before that we have taken the mean of these two data points in every bin, HMI and MDI, and that is represented by yellow line here. So in this yellow line, what we have done is that we have applied the Bayesian approach and to fit the model. And for that, we have used the prior information that B and N are uniformly distributed, and these data points are in the Gaussian distributed. So likelihood is the Gaussian. When we apply the Gaussian, you can see that the B naught distribution of B naught and and the N value here. So what we have done first is that we have taken the randomly selected 100 value of B naught and the N, and what we have done is we have plotted this here, represented by the thin lines in the background, and then you can what we have done is that we have taken the mean of B naught and N, and we have plotted this fitted line that is represented by the dashed line. So what we got after fitting is that the mean value of B naught is around 2894 and 5.57. So that is actually more than the one that is routinely used in the different model, and where it will be even more useful for the tilt quenching purposes in the model. Now, along with the Vmax, we also looked at how this tilt depend on the flux in the BMR, and we have not seen much, even though the MDS shows slight decrease in it, but HMI has not shown any significant decrease in it. So, but we have 3 or 4 data points in this case, so we can say that these are not statistically significant, so we cannot comment on that. And along with that, we have also looked at the scatter delta term with the Bmax and the flux, and we see that as the Bmax increases, the scatter is decreasing. That is pretty obvious because of the stronger the magnetic field in the BMR, it will be less affected by the convective buffeting, and you can see the decrease in the scatter, and its similar behavior can be seen with the flux as well. So now we have seen only the indication of tilt quenching, and we have approached taken the Bayesian approach to model the behavior that we have seen. So that brings me to the final part of my talk. So we have used the line of sight magnetogram from MDI and HMI. First, we have developed automatic algorithm to identify the BMRs, and then what we have seen is that there is some indication of tilt quenching, which is routinely used in the different dynamo models. And when we have applied the Bayesian approach inference method, what we got is that the B saturation is around 3 kilogauss and 5.5 is the N value. Now, there is some issue with this approach because we have treated individual magnetogram as a separately N, and hence the BMRs identified in it as a separate BMRs. But we know that BMR evolves and we can expect the Bmax tilt of the BMRs will evolve. So for that, what we need to do is that we have to track the BMR. So currently we are working on it, and to know about the detail about our tracking algorithm, you can have a look at another e-talk by Anu, and we can discuss about how we are tracking the BMRs. So now, thank you for your time, and if you have any question, comments, and suggestion, please contact me at this email ID, or you can find me around. I will be happy to discuss. And you can scan this QR code to get access to the published version of this work. Thank you.